everyone. Welcome to Laurie's Little Studio. I'm Laurie, and today I have this in front of me. This, I believe, is some fabric. This is a Mother's Day gift that I received. I found this and I want to discuss it, and this is a pattern that I'm working on. So, let's start with this. This fabric, if it's what I think it is for this. Yes. It feels like cotton, but it feels like heavy cotton. Linen-y, sort of. And I think it'll work well for view C, or view D, I mean. Okay, this I found. I was looking for something else, and it is the iron-on tearaway. So you press it to your fabric. You do whatever design or whatever it is that you're trying to do, mostly for applique, and then you can just tear it away. We celebrated Mother's Day for me on Saturday, and Candace and Rob gave me this, and I've been so intrigued by them. I've never in my life used one. I don't know anything about them. So excited to get into it. Always find that. Okay, so it looks like, oh, I see. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is the power pack. This is what the inside looks like. That snaps there. Is the charger. And that light comes on when it is properly plugged in and charging. I don't want it to fall off the table. Style D scissor head for hard rigid materials. This blade has a half circle in the middle. This blade has a half circle in the middle. I have no idea what that means. Okay. And this is the style O scissor head for soft flexible materials. This blade has a circle in the middle. What do they mean by that? A circle. Oh! Okay, so there's a circle right there. I think you can see that. And this blade has a half circle right there. This light apparently will turn off. Well, it must be fully charged, because the light has turned off. Okay, then you plug the battery into your scissor. Practice turning them on and off. which is this. So here we go. Oh my goodness. Wow. Let's see, we have to find some fabric. And we'll try 4 layers. Okay, it got hung up about right there, but it just kept going. All right, now we're going to try 8 layers. That is 8 layers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, here we go. No, it won't do 8 layers, but this blade might. Oh, there we go. All right. Now we're going to see if half circle blade will cut 8 layers of fabric. Nope. It doesn't like 8 layers, but I don't think there's really ever a time when I'm going to cut 8 layers of fabric. Wow, this is awesome. That is really cool. It's amazing. It's very, very nice to have something that'll cut so quickly and cleanly. Gosh, I just wadded this fabric up the other day. I was cutting out that skirt and oh my gosh, my back started hurting so bad. So we'll have to get back to that project. All right. I have to come up with there's a spot down to my left that I can put it on and keep it down there. And I think I'll be able to keep it plugged in. Wow, that's crazy. I honestly feel like this would cut very fine fabrics too. As I said, this was a gift. I am very happy with it. So we begin with instructions on how to do your basic seams. They've got the overlock, French seam, how to sew sheer fabric, and stay stitching. So I'm gonna put some, got this for Mother's Day. And if I had smell-o-video, you could smell it is heaven. And it feels wonderful on dry skin. Okay, so we know about all that. Gather the neck edge between the small dots, stitching a 1/4 inch from the cut edge and an 1/8 of an inch inside the first stitching. With right sides to, so what they mean is you're going to stitch a line at a 1/4 of an inch from the cut edge, and then on the inside you're going to stitch an 1/8 of an inch away. Okay, so we do that to gather what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pin on the inside where I'm less likely to hit it with my sewing machine, and hopefully that will remind me not to stitch there. Now I'm up to where my pins are, so I'm going to back stitch. And cut my thread. One, mode 2. Sort of act like a serged side here. Okay. So this is what that stitch looks like. Alright, so we've done that. Now we open this out. And I'm going to need to gather and gather right there. So this is your little neck edge. You go down, square it off, and come back up. I'm going to go press these center back and center front seams, and when I come back we will stitch side seams and shoulder seams. Next thing we do And I'll probably take this over to the machine, press everything, do the overlock stitch, get that all taken care of. But I want to go on to the next step and see what we need to do. Binding will be stitched together on this end. And all of these little strappy pieces, you may have noticed, were cut on the bias. Here. And I'm just going to stitch it twice instead of starting backing up, stitching, backing up, stitching. This down. Yeah, and this is very stretchy. So it's the next day, and I have to go feed the chickens in 30 minutes. Oh my goodness, you guys are feeling your oats. But I wanted to start this before I do that. So what I'm doing is I'm lining up the back seam with the seam where I attached the neckband. Right sides together, like so. And you can either pin it or clip it. And we're going to go around both sides with edges even. And really take care not to stretch, because this is all bias cut. And you need to gather up this front edge when you get to it. Don't gather it prior to the application of this neck edge, or neck binding. Well, that was wrong. I did something. I did a thing. Fortunately, no sewing projects were harmed. I don't need this piece. This is for views and not D. So this piece I don't need. I wondered why it was so long. I don't want to throw it away, so I'm going to put it in my pile of keep fabric. That's more like it. That's how much you should have left at the end. Okay, so we're going to stitch this down, and then when I come back, I have to go feed the chickens now, but when I come back, we'll stitch it down. Then we're going to trim the left side down, I believe it is. You're just going to fold it back and it won't show. Of course, it'll be folded, pressed, and stitched to the inside. So it'll look something like this right here. And then we will form a loop out of this side that will fit over the button that we're going to put on the front of this shirt. I have reduced the speed that my sewing machine is usually set at because I'm stitching over gathers. I'm also talking like I have a bunch of gravel in my throat, but it's just allergies. Okay, so as I'm going along, I'm just kind of evenly distributing the gathers and arranging them the way I want them to look. Removing the pins as I go. And when I was about halfway through stitching this, I thought, I must be doing this wrong. Because usually you fold your facings to the inside, but after checking with the instructions again, you stitch it this way and then you fold it over. And I just don't think I have enough fabric, but you fold it over and stitch it this way. So I will be using the ironing board to really get this pressed out. That's just very non-intuitive to me to do it this way, but first time for everything. So I'm going to go over here to the ironing board and press this, and when I come back we'll see what happens when I try to stitch it down. Okay, so I pressed just a little tiny bit. I pulled my basting stitches out of this and I pressed it, and then I realized I'm going to have to cut this seam allowance out. At first I thought it would be easy to cut it with my pinking shears, but that's not going to happen. I think I'm going to use my rotary blade because I don't have to move my hand. I can just leave my hand as it is. I can push the excess fabric out of the way, and I can go slowly. So I'm going to kind of come in at an angle right here. Okay, let's see if that's better. So basically, that's what you're going to do with this. It's just simply a matter of folding it raw edge in and then folding it over the sewn edge. Alright, now I've got my two ends. I've pinned it all the way around. And I will say, they're touting this as an easy pattern. This technique is not that easy for a beginner. It's not hard, but I feel like this would have been better handled differently, but I know why they did it this way, and that is to conserve fabric. For somebody who's learning how to sew, this would be frustrating, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, so once we get to these two ends, we have something we need to do. So if you're wearing this, this is the left side. This is the right side. And so it tells you to trim the left end of the binding to within 1/4 inch from opening edge. So we need to trim this down, and then we're just going to press under on the long edge and left end of the binding, and on the outside pin the pressed edge of the binding over the seam so that it just covers the stitching. So once again, there's an easier way to do it, but I'm going to remove this pin so I can trim it. And I think I'm going to trim it a little more than 1/4 inch because this fabric does not like being folded and it would take a little bit extra. So eyeballing it, that's about 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'm going to fold it to the inside and then fold this down over it. That's just an easier way. Like so. And then I'll be sewing a button right here on the end of what I've done. On this side, I'm going to unpin. We're going to stitch this, a fold into it. My seam line there. Okay. I mean, do you see what I mean? I think this whole thing could have been so much easier. However, you do need that 45 degree, the bias trim, and it did conserve fabric, cutting it out the way that they had you cut it out. But I think I'd rather buy a little extra fabric and then, you know, I'd have enough to make it a little bit easier to stitch. Okay. Anyway, once you get your fabric folded, and mine's fighting me, just fighting. Got my ends folded in, but they don't want to. Had little dog ears there. Okay. So basically, on this end, I need to start stitching down here on this tail. But I don't like the way that looks. Okay, and I'm going to have to back stitch to get to that. I don't dare start on the end of that. Okay, and then we fold this back to make a loop, and we want it to be sort of open instead of folding it straight back on itself like that. We want it to be open like that. I need to come down here to D. And I need to take a piece of, per the instructions, I need to take a piece of interfacing that is small enough, just a remnant. My machine is haunted. It's literally haunted. The piece of interfacing needs to go under the 2 buttonholes on each of the sleeves. So I'm going to go get a piece of interfacing and press it to this. So I pressed a piece of heat and bond, and then on top of the heat and bond I pressed a piece of interfacing, just to give it a little extra oomph. So I want to mark the top of my sleeve. Oh, I need to know exactly where the buttonholes go. In D is you do the interfacing and then you make the buttonholes in the sleeve at the markings. So that's our next step. If I can do it on the Haunted Sewing Machine. Alright, there you go. 2 buttonholes made, and I guess I should go ahead and then. Alright, I need to check the temperature outside. I need to know if I should go turn the fan on in the chicken coop, which I will do in a minute. I want to see what we're doing next. So next we're going to stitch the sleeves together at the sides, and then after we do that we have to gather the top. I prefer to gather the top before they're stitched together, so I'm going to do that. And you gather between the dots, but that would be on the arch, so I can guess that one of the dots was here and one of the dots was here, and then I've marked that one. So I'm going to gather them, then I'm going to stitch them together. Alright. Make the drawstring for the sleeves. And the way they have you do that is, I'm going to have to take this to the ironing board to do it because it's not like a regular cotton, but fold it to the center and then fold it to the center on both long sides, and then fold it in half and then stitch. If you're burning your fingers at the ironing board with this little string, use, if you've got one of those gloves that came with your hair straightener or your curling iron. Okay. And I'm not going to start on the very end of this. I'm going to start about here, so I'll have some lead, and then if I can, I'll just turn it over when I get to the other end, and I'll finish stitching it. Now I got frustrated with the hot iron, and I did not, I have to do it this way, I did not go, I didn't press it all the way down the final time. I figured I could just pin it, and that's what I'm going to try. I did press both sides in, but I didn't press it folded in half once those 2 sides were pressed, because it was a little aggravating. And I honestly feel like the fact that it was aggravating was because it's the type of fabric I'm using. All right. One down, one to go. And of course, the whole time I was stitching this, I was thinking it would have been easier to use a shoelace or something. But there is what it looks like when you get that done. And I left the other one over on the ironing board. So anyway, I'm going to go check on the chickens, and I will pop up a video of them right here when I return. So in order for me to get this drawstring through these buttonholes and around this casing that I just sewed, I'm going to have to find a small safety pin. Alright, here we are back with this again, and this is the shirt part, and this is the sleeve, and I'm going to have to cut another sleeve, and I don't think I'll need this, but I'll just set it over there. So I'm going to need this piece, and for now I'll just fold everything together. Okay, so I think I have I've already shot some of this video. So I'm going to try to insert this into that video. It may seem clunky, but there's nothing I can do about it because of the messed up sleeve. So here is the remaining sleeve. And all I'm going to do is, I'm going to hem it with a little hem, about like that. And then I'm going to add, on the inside, I'm just going to add a band of elastic. So it'll be turned under and then turned under again. And then this elastic will be stitched right along the bottom edge. What I need to do is figure out, nope, I'm going to have to cut 2 sleeves because I forgot that I had already made the buttonholes. Okay, so 2 new sleeves from the remaining fabric. Right sides together. Alright, so the next thing is we will need to hem, and I'll have to go to the ironing board, press this seam that we just made right here down flat, and fold under and then fold under again. And because my elastic is, what is it? 1/8 of an inch, I just feel like I can't enclose it, and I don't want to have to cut new sleeves. So I'm just going to hem it. Okay, so I found this website called Notions, and it's spelled K-N-O-T-I-O-N-S, Craft Smarter, and it has ladies' body measurements, and you can get everywhere from, if you start with your bust measurement and you go size 28 to 40, or 28 inches to 40 inches bust, then it has your, I guess, average bust, waist, hip, armhole depth, back waist length, shoulder to shoulder, neck, shoulder, sleeve length, upper arm, and wrist. And then it goes on to busts from 42 to 54 inches, and it has the exact same list of measurements there. So I will link their website below this video. 10. Okay, so basically the opening is 20 inches on this sleeve. And this elastic has quite a bit of stretch. So let's say, see, that's quite a bit of stretch. I don't want this tight though. I just want the sleeve to be slightly puffy. So we're going to go I think if we make them 17 without me stretching it, maybe 16 without me stretching it, it'll still be big enough and it won't be cutting into the arm. Okay, so that's the center of the elastic, which will be here. I just want to see what it looks like. This won't be a true representation. Yeah, I think this will be fine. Leaving it a little larger for the person I'm making it for, who just does not like tight clothes or anything tight, especially in the summertime. That's not necessarily true for winter, but she does not like it when things are tight. They've been pressed. I need to cut another piece of elastic before I stitch them down because I don't want 2 rows of stitching. Alright, then cut all your threads off or you'll have little whiskers that you don't want. And test it for strength. And then you'll have to mark it. So the best way to do that is to take a friction ink pen or any kind of ink pen and mark where it's folded in half. And then put this mark that you just made on top of the seam where you've joined the 2 ends of the elastic together and pull the sides out and mark the sides. Okay, then take your sleeve and do the exact same thing. Mark the center front of the sleeve, and then you can just do the sides like this. And when you are applying your your elastic, I would turn it to the inside so that folded, you don't want this poking out, so have it on the inside on the seam like this. or you could overlap your elastic. My hands aren't going to allow me to do that today. I don't know why, but oh wait, that's a thing apparently. Now you have to attach this with the lace up. You don't want the lace down. Why do I keep saying lace? Okay, challenge accepted. I'm not going to say lace anymore. I'm going to say elastic. Okay, pin this on, and because you have this facing up, you can bring it to the top of your fabric. If it were down here, you wouldn't be able to do that. And match up those marks. So I've got my elastic is marked right there, and my fabric is marked right there, and I'm just going to match those two together and pin it. We may change the way our pins are oriented, but I'm just pinning it in place right now. All right, find the other mark on your elastic and the other mark on your fabric and match that together like you did before. And remember, this is not in the pattern, at least not for this view, but it's what I'm doing because the other way that they had me doing it wasn't working, and I didn't feel like fighting it. Okay, now you should have some little bits of fabric and lace, or fabric and elastic that aren't matched up, but you're going to be pulling your elastic and fabric as you stitch, so you don't have to pin that part if you don't want to. Okay, now remember, I'm doing a zigzag. I'm doing 3.5 and for width, 3.0 for length, and I'm going to start on the under seam on my sleeve. And there you have your little ruffled sleeve, and the pattern shows because you would have both with one. I'm going to tie a knot in the end, tie the bow. I'm going to make a loop. I'm going to turn this piece right here, push it through, and then however big I want the bow, okay, and I'm going to cut, make sure you cut the other, if you're doing the way I'm doing it, make sure you cut it so they'll both be the same length. I think that would be the prettiest. So I need to cut it down here somewhere. And there's your little bow. So I'll have to do this by hand. So I've got needle and thread over here. I'll just put my bow off to the side over there. Now I'm going to gather my sleeve. So it's 2 rows of an elongated straight stitch. I've got my machine all the way up on 4.5. And I'm not going to use the cut thread option on my machine. I'm going to raise my needle, raise my presser foot, and pull out the 2 threads like so. And I'm going to do it again just in case one of these threads doesn't last through this process. And same thing, raise my foot, and don't use the machine cut thread option. I'm just going to raise my presser foot and pull it out so I have this length of thread here. And I'm going to use either the bobbin thread or the needle thread, but not both. So both of my threads need to be either on the right side of my fabric, or both need to be on the wrong side that I'm going to pull. If I pull from one way and the other way, it will lock my stitches and I won't be able to gather my sleeve up. But I'm going to do it again, get my side seams matched up like so, flip this over the top of my hand and pin it into place. And I typically use 2 pins down here because, I don't know, I have just found that to be more helpful than hurtful. Now, as you can see, maybe this is gathered up too much. So I'm going to loosen it up a little bit. And the top seam should be in the center top of my sleeve. Okay, so it's all pinned down. And now we're going to stitch it from the inside. So if you want to, you can put it over the arm of your machine, but be careful not to dislodge any pins. Be sure you put your sewing machine back on 2.5 straight stitch. You'll have threads coming out of your machine. So get those out of the way. Make sure you cut these threads. You don't want them hanging out in there. Alright, and then you attach the next sleeve the same way. We've got to gather it and stitch it in. And then we'll be doing the hem, and then we have to put a button right here. Well, this is the loop that attaches over the button. The button will go on the front right there. Oh dear, that did not stay down. So what I'm going to do in this case is a technique that you may not have ever seen before, but I'm going to do it. I don't really have a name for this, but basically I have my top stitching, and I just do a kind of a wavy straight stitch over the top of my top stitching. I use the same color thread, and it's very intentional. So, but I need to catch all these little places where it's folded out instead of staying folded under. So here we go. And it really just shows up in the spots where there's a dark section of this fabric. It doesn't really show up anywhere else. But you can feel it, and it feels very sturdy. It makes this a little bit more of a sturdy neckline. I like it. Okay, so I need to find a button. I need to attach the sleeve, and then we're going to hem it. think I'm going to need this one. Going through a lot of layers of fabric, and I don't want to break a needle or stick it in the end of my thumb. From the inside to the outside to bury that knot. Now I need to find a button that I like for the front of this shirt. I prefer a natural button. I have glass, but I don't know where they are. It seems like I'm always saying that. I have mother of pearl. It's not glass, but it won't be as heavy, so that's fine. Okay. I don't know. This is kind of how I do my buttons. Okay, this is pretty. It looks like it might fit. I suspect it won't be used that much. There's still prettier ones in here. This is a pretty shank button. It's very polished. I kind of like it. Okay, so let's see. We have the patterned button. I have threads everywhere. We have the shank button. Ah! There it is. It has a shank on the back. And then we have this one, which is, the shank is built into the button. It's all one piece. And then we have this one that has a pattern on it. I think you can see that. So which one would we like to use? I don't know. There's that one. This is definitely a strong, oh, there's a little baby button, strong contender. Yep, that one. It's the way it feels, being polished to such a high degree, just appeals to me today. And there's the button sewn on. And the next and last step is to hem the top. And I'm going to flip this over and try to brush all these little whiskers up so that I can take my rotary blade and get rid of them. There it is, all finished. I think it is a very cute pattern. New look number 6891. It is simple, it's cute. I'll probably make a couple more. I don't know, I might make one for Jessica and surprise her with it. But this one is for my sister. And I just love the colors. I think it'll be a great shirt for her. And I will get it sent off ASAP. Anyway, I'm going to get this folded up. I think I'm going to go check and see what happened to the solid linen fabric that I ordered to make Candace's shirt from, because my intention was to use this as the band across the bottom. I'm doing this view again. She liked these little sleeves, but I'm going to take this and make this as a band across the bottom. This is my next project. It's a McCall's pattern. It's number M8322, and I'm going to be making view C and view D for Candace. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.